In this video, we're going to be talking about a huge storm system bringing multiple rounds of severe weather with up to 80-mile-per-hour winds and heavy mountain snow with flooding, as well as a nor'easter with another bomb cyclone. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. This is your Monday, October 25th update. And what we're looking at here is the water vapor imagery on the North American view of that bomb cyclone that happened yesterday off the West Pacific here. That dropped down to a 942 millibar low pressure. That brought all the high seas out here, some higher winds along the coast, but a lot of heavy rainfall as well, and even portions of impacted some flooding range as that atmospheric river was in full effect in Northern California. We also have Rick, that's going to be a main player down here. That's actually making landfall currently right now as we're watching these two developing storm systems. This one that impacted all of Missouri and Illinois last night with those dangerous tornadoes. That instability is going to merge with this instability down here off the southeast. All this is going to merge together and develop a low pressure system tonight, and that is going to rapidly deepen into yet another bomb cyclone for a nor'easter that's going to happen tomorrow into Wednesday. So we got a lot to go over. Let's take a look at the hazard map currently right now. We've got all those high wind watches from that dynamic system that's coming in with sporadic high winds anywhere from Nevada to Utah to going into Montana and to North Dakota here. And then of course we've got those flash flood watches still in effect. And then we got winter storm warnings into the mountain regions where we're going to be picking up 4 inches per hour snowfall rate with copious amounts of precipitation to work with. And we got sporadic winter weather advisories out here into portions of Utah. But notice here, we already have flash flood watches up along the Northeast into Jersey, into Long Island, into Connecticut, as well as Massachusetts. And then we have those high wind watches into Rhode Island, into portions of Cape Cod, as well as Massachusetts, anticipating the development of that nor'easter that's going to happen overnight, that's going to be crushing ashore going into Tuesday into that Wednesday timeframe. But yesterday, man, it was just a devastating event last night. Here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center. These are very preliminary reports of 13 tornado reports. I mean, it got bad last night in Missouri and Illinois. Some of these debris balls were flying 20,000 feet in the air, extending 2.5 miles wide. I mean, the National Weather Service will be surveying the damage. But there was just a lot of damage out last night, guys. So, I mean, it was just an incredibly active night last night. I tried to give you plenty of advance warning with this particular system that was coming together. And yet we have yet another several rounds of more severe weather that we're going to be talking about with that dynamic system that's going to be coming ashore today. So, but yesterday, this is just a crazy record. I mean, look at what happened in Sacramento. They went literally from March 19th to last Monday, over 212 days without a drop of precipitation. And then yesterday, the atmospheric river was in full effect, setting an all-time 24-hour rainfall record, surpassing all the way back from 1880. This is some incredible stuff. Downtown Sacramento picked up 5.44 inches, and some of the areas picked up those double-digit totals that we were talking about, and that is just in that 24-hour time span. So they literally go from nothing to record rainfall within a 24-hour time. Man, that was just incredible. That's the reason the atmospheric river was in full effect. And we're not done. This is just the 24-hour record. It's still actually raining in Sacramento currently right now. And it's going to continue to rain as that system actually pulls a little bit further south into central California later on today. So, but the setup today with those two systems merging together is going to be along into North Carolina, where we're going to be having those strong to severe thunderstorms. So if you live in the Charlotte area, into the Raleigh, North Carolina area, into Greensboro, into Durham, into Winston-Salem, you're going to be under the gun to see some of those stronger to severe thunderstorms later on this afternoon into tonight. But even as far south as Chattanooga, going into New York, going into Philly, as well as Columbus, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, into DC. You could still be under the gun into portions of Ohio here as well, of seeing some of those strong to severe thunderstorms as this dynamic system merges together and pulls in all that severe weather. And that's just today. But once that clears, then the setup for the nor'easter starts. So here's the time frame. Look at the 24-hour clock here, right here. There behind it, we've got that heavy snow with that bomb cyclone continue to pump heavy precipitation along the coastline and then heavier snow into the interior regions. But we've got the developing of a nor'easter as we go into tonight, and that'll rapidly deepen into the overnight hours tomorrow, because check what happens as we move forward. Here's the 850 millibar wind speed of this developing rapid cyclone getting its act together. This is hour 45, right? So we went from hour 24 to hour 45. That's less than 24-hour time span. Now we're talking a 973 millibar low pressure. That is a 30 millibar drop that classifies within dropping more than 24 millibars within a 24-hour time span of yet another bomb cyclone, with back-to-back off the West Coast and the East Coast over a 3-day time span. This is incredible stuff, guys. But yet, this one's going to be a lot closer to shore. It's not going to be nearly as strong, but it's not going to be well offshore like the one off the west coast there. Now we're talking, this one's going to be moving a little bit further offshore, just basically setting up shop over Long Island here, pumping those very high winds. But notice the setup on the 850 millibar. Yeah, we've got that one system that's coming across, but look at the wind direction here. We've got the remnants of Rick, and that's going to play a key part as we move forward, and that's actually going to help feed this other dynamic system as it comes in and gives the and really fuel the effect for that severe weather threat that we're going to be talking about over the central US. So let's take a look at the wind speed, because as we get in that Tuesday and to that Wednesday time frame, here's the wind direction as this pumps anticyclonic flow here. So we could be looking up to possibly hurricane force wind gust along the coastline here into Long Island, around the Cape here, as this really pumps in those higher winds. But easily 40 to 50, upwards to 60 mile per hour at times is definitely not out of the question as you go through that Tuesday going into Wednesday time frame and along the Northeast. So especially like places where they've got those high wind watches into Rhode Island and to Massachusetts here and along the Cape here, especially be on the lookout for those definitely higher winds. And then there's the precipitation. We've got a pretty good swath of 3 to 5 inches from this setup, and this is just over that Tuesday Wednesday time frame. So anywhere from Jersey to eastern PA, going into New York, as well as Rhode Island, going into Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, even southern portions of Maine could be getting in the action with this dynamic setup. It's going to be coming across, and this is actually going to be doing a kind of a loop. So it's going to come in from the south, it's going to loop around and then loop out. So it actually is probably going to, in some form, be actually even stronger than what Hurricane Henri actually produced in this region, because it was rapidly decelerating as it was moving ashore. This one's going to be rapidly developing as it's getting closer to inland. So in a lot of ways, you're going to have a little bit more impacts from Henri in certain areas than you from this system than that you did from Henri. So now let's take a look at Rick. So let's take a look at Rick, because that's going to be a main player as we move forward. Rick, it's actually making landfall right now. So it was off the coast of Mexico here. There's Acapulco. So to kind of give you your bearings of where it actually made landfall, just west of there in Lazaro Cardenas, of this 105 mile per hour category 2 hurricane made landfall just to right now, or just an hour ago, as it's rapidly coming ashore. So as this comes ashore, look at the wind direction. So there's the setup. You can almost see the eye developing by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon into Wednesday time frame from that nor'easter off the northeast coast. And there's the precipitation of water, and then there's the wind direction with the little arrows pointing up. So we got the strong south wind feeding, we got the massive jet coming across from west to east. That's going to set the stage for the atmosphere to split, and the winds change at different levels, and that's going to create the rotation in the atmosphere to set up yet another severe weather threat, because we got all that deep tropical surge surging from the south, pulling in from the moisture from Rick. As we have the setup for the dry line out in West Texas, we've got dry air back behind it with that cold front coming in, but out ahead of it, we've got that warm sector, and that's where we're going to be setting the stage for another round of strong to severe thunderstorms as we get into that Tuesday night time frame. So now we're talking places they already upgraded to an enhanced risk for severe weather, into places like Abilene, going into Wichita Falls, going into Lawton, Oklahoma again, Enid, going into Hutchinson, Kansas. Yes, you could be seeing more severe weather for your areas, but this goes all the way down to the south. So this is going to develop into kind of a strong to severe thunderstorms, particularly like a tornado threat, kind of hail threat in the beginning. And then it's going to have a nasty squall line as this moves across in the late hours of Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning. So by the time it reaches, say, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it'll be mainly a wind threat with those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and those downburst winds as these things are collapsing. But that'll be like, say, rush hour by the time we get into rush hour on Wednesday morning. And that will just continue to move across as we get into the day on a Wednesday. But so here's your tornado threat as we move forward with this particular system. Yes, Oklahoma could potentially get hit again with more tornadoes. They've already had a record month in October. 28 tornadoes all time, beats the 1998 record of 27. So unfortunately, we could be adding to those totals by the time we get into that Tuesday timeframe with this dynamic setup coming in. So yes, definitely places into Wichita Falls, going into Lawton, going into portions of right here into Oklahoma. Yes, you could be seeing those tornadoes, and then the winds could be impacting too as this sets up into kind of a nasty squall line moving across. It'll start off getting some of those 80-mile-per-hour, 70-mile-per-hour, and then as it moves further into losing some of the dynamics of the heating of the day, going into the overnight hours as we get into that Dallas-Fort Worth area. By the time we get into that 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning time frame on Wednesday morning, they won't be nearly as strong as they were out West Texas, but they'll still be packing a punch with very high winds. It'll probably wake you up as well. So as we move forward, there's the surge of the tropical moisture. So as this same system kind of moves across, now we're taking advantage of the Gulf, not only of the remnants of Rick, but we're taking advantage of the Gulf as well. And so that's why we're seeing some of those reds pop up with deep tropical moisture as the convergence from the backside. Once that front moves through Dallas, it's going to be really nice. It clears out really nice. You got cooler, drier air, and it's probably going to be 70 degrees as a high temperature coming up on Wednesday. But to the south of you, you're going to have to be dealing with those strong to severe thunderstorms, setting up shop over Houston, going into New Orleans, going into Baton Rouge, going into Mobile, Alabama, as well as Pasadena, Texas. Even portions of San Antonio, Austin, Corpus, Shreveport, going into Jackson, Mississippi. All those areas will be under the gun to see some of those strong to severe thunderstorms as we go into the day on that Wednesday, October 27th time frame. And that surge just continues to move across, going into Florida, going into Georgia, going into the Carolina regions. Now, the Storm Prediction Center, being 4 days out from now, has went ahead and not issued any warnings from this particular system with too much uncertainty in the atmosphere with some dry air trying to filter in. But you're still going to get some of those heavier rains impacting. And yes, some of these could turn severe as we get closer to that time frame. So as we move forward, that same system has that comma Q shape, right? Continues to move up. So now we're heavier rains setting up over Illinois, over Indiana. This will eventually feed into the Ohio Valley, going into Tennessee, Kentucky. It'll be over Georgia and portions of the Florida Panhandle. As yet, we have another low pressure system riding up the coast again. So not obviously not nearly as strong, and it's not expected to strengthen any further than that, but it's still taking advantage of those warm waters along the coast, pulling in that moisture, wrapping it inland, dumping that heavier rain inland. So now areas of West Virginia, going into Delaware, you're going to be hit hard as we go into that Friday time frame. And that will just continue to move up the coast. That low pressure continues to remain off the coast, pulling in that tropical moisture on inland with those heavier rains as we go into that Saturday, October 30th time frame. And then as we get into your Halloween, all this finally clears out and we could be high and dry before your Halloween. So for your Halloween, it actually looks pretty nice across a good chunk of the country. So it'd be great trick-or-treating weather that's coming up for a Halloween time frame. But there's your winds. Man, it's going to be really active for the next week with very high winds as these systems move across these higher wind gusts in these particular areas where the systems could be. We definitely be on the lookout for that. And then here's your heavier rains. We're still expecting more heavy rain along the West Coast, especially in the northern California, with that atmospheric river just sending pulses of energy throughout the week. So it's going to be still a wet week along the West Coast here. Fairly dry into Arizona and New Mexico, and even into portions West Texas here. And then as these storms develop, it'll be a little bit wetter into Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, getting into Houston. But then the heavier rains will set up over Iowa, getting into Missouri again, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. And then where that dynamic Noreaster obviously takes place, so those 3 to 5 inches on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be adding to those totals as you go into Friday into next weekend. Some of these areas could be picking up 6 to 8 inches with isolated spots up to 10 inches. It's definitely not out of the question. There's your heavier snow as we go throughout the week. Mainly this is going to be mountain snow, but very heavy snow in the upper levels of going forward into throughout the week. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.